Hello. How's it going, guys? Sorry, my kettle's really loud. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not. Hello to the Netherlands. How's it going? What's up, Marger, Lenka, Denny? Cool to see people who've been here before. Nice. Cyrus, what's up? Cool. It's almost boiling. Should have just made my tea earlier. I think I might have to move these up a little bit earlier in the day because I wake up at like 9 or 10 and I don't know what to do with myself unless I'm drinking tea. I just walk around the house. Oh man, there's some hard names here. I gotta zoom in so I don't have to squint. What's up? What's up, Isaac? Good to see you, man. Cool. Wow, so many people I recognize. Dieter, Robbins, Fatima. Nice. Man, so good to see everybody. How many teapots do I have? Good question. I'm going to give you a little tour of my teapots while we wait. Here's one. Let's see. Let me see if I can focus better. I don't know if that's going to help. This is one from China I got. Let's see. Actually, I'm not going to show you all of them. I'll show you a couple interesting ones. So that one. This is the one that we had last week. This is Kyushu from Japan, and it's so difficult to make that the guy who makes it stopped making it, and I almost wasn't able to get it. It's one of the last ones. What's up, Sean? What's up, Hannah? Oh, Marger? I don't know, man. I think I'm good with names, and everybody here has tough ones. I'm probably messing up everybody's names. All right. Oh, damn it. I didn't make it hot enough. All right, let's try again. So, what's up, Noah? Good to see you too. I know, Marger. Last week, my email notifications were all messed up for my blog, so sorry about that. My fault. Next week, I'm going to have an awesome guest, Noah Kagan, who, of course, a bunch of people here know or know of. Oh, Marher. I'm going to get it. You better come back to more of these so that I can get some mileage out of learning how to pronounce your name. What's up, Ethan? So my buddy Noah Kagan is going to be here next weekend, and I'm going to be on his live stream too. So that's going to be fun. We're going to do his on Friday, mine on Sunday. So there definitely will be one next Sunday. And let's see, Sunday after that, not sure. We'll see. I'm going to try to do most of them. All right. So I'm curious to see what people think about whether we should have themes, whether we should just talk about whatever. I'm sort of experimenting with the different stuff. With some different ideas, and I guess we'll just see what people like the most, and we'll stick with it. But my general thought was that maybe we have like a rough theme, maybe kind of related to whatever I write about that week on the blog, and that way people can like ask questions about that, and then maybe at the end we just talk about whatever people want to talk about. So I figured we might try that. Yeah, Dieter's never heard of Noah. See, I like that. See, I'm stealing his readers. So for other people who don't know, Dieter and Fatima are like two of the most active people on Noah's live stream and his YouTube channel. I think maybe that's how they found mine too. That would be my guess. First question. I guess not about home improvement, but that's okay. This guy said hi like 2 days before, so he's been ready. In retrospect from your Super Habits book, what 2 to 3 concepts do you consider the most useful? The first one I think about right off the bat is consistency. I think that we all have this tendency when we want to start a new habit or we want to make some change that we're super gung-ho about it. We jump in and then it sort of fades out after a week or two. And when you do that, it's not, I write about this in the book, but it's not just like a neutral thing or like, hey, try again. It's actually worse because you sort of built this negative feedback loop around building that habit. So what I found in, coaching dozens of people, my own experience, et cetera, is if somebody is consistent with a small habit, it's very easy to build that into something that's big and impactful. So I always try to get that chunk of their life or that consistency going first, and then we ramp up the habit. So that's probably the most important one. What would be the second one? Well, I don't know. That one's like so important. I feel like all the other stuff sort of supports that. Maybe not doing too much at once. That also it supports it, but focus on one big important thing and get that one sort of into like a maintenance mode, and then start another one after that. Can you show us how to use the Manal when traveling? So maybe I'll do it before then. For sure, at the next gear post, I will do like a live packing, unpacking kind of thing on the live stream. My one complaint with the Manal is that it doesn't have that much organization. So if you see on my Instagram a few weeks ago, I posted my bag totally packed, and basically it's just like Tetris. You just kind of put everything in there and then close it. One thing I really like about it is that it opens the whole way. So it's really easy to access everything in there. Do you track your habits? I don't track habits now. I've definitely been like really hardcore about that for a long time. What I found is that in the beginning, I was really bad at creating habits. So I had to track everything because I would just forget about it or I would miss it. These days, I feel like I'm so good at building habits that I just sort of do more on the planning side of it, where I say, okay, am I actually going to do this? How's this going to fit into my life? What are the benefits? All that sort of stuff. And then I just do it. And I find it's pretty easy to stick to stuff like that. All right, my first cup of tea for the day. It's noon. That's late for me to not have tea. I think next week I might move it to 11, especially because, I picked the wrong size teacup. That was a mistake. What South American countries merit a visit? So I don't love South American culture. I don't have a problem with it or anything, but I just don't really connect with it on any sort of deep level like I do with other ones. And so that said, I've been to a lot of places there. I had an awesome time in Chile. Really, really liked that. Where else did I like? Peru, I had an interesting time. I don't know if I'd say it was good or bad, but it's like a cool country. Went to Iguazu Falls. That was spectacular, really worth seeing. So I find there's a lot of like good trips I've had in South America and I enjoy going, but nothing where it's like Budapest or Tokyo where I just like have to go back. Great question. And our first on topic question. Thank you, Denny. Yeah, I have. So he's asking basically what I'm using to do home automation. So what I ended up using is Hubitat, Hubitat, Hubitat. It's not open source, or is it? I don't think it is. But it's the perfect mix of like, you can just add stuff easily, like Z-Wave stuff, Zigbee stuff, whatever. And then it's easy to add, but there's also a lot that you can do to like program it, customize stuff. So like, for example, I have, our power here, we have solar and all this. Power is 10 times more expensive during certain hours of the day. So I set it up so that it sends telnet commands to my car charger to not charge the car during those hours. So what am I doing with this? All right. So I think that's a really, Hubitat, Hubitat. I did end up getting a bunch of Google Homes. I did it mainly because I was going to use them for the speakers and I was just going to mute them. It's pretty convenient. I don't feel great about it, but I do use it. Let's see. Oh, that said, I do use Shinobi for video surveillance, and it's really cool. It can do like person recognition. It can tie into Hubitat. So like if there's a person in the backyard, do this and this and this. So that's kind of cool. I got my coaching clients just through my blog. I think actually a couple signed up from when I was on Noah's podcast too. Now I don't take any new ones though, so I don't really do that anymore. Do I ever take a break from certain habits? Yeah, for sure I do. I try to not take a break until it's easier for me to keep doing it than it is for me to quit. That's sort of my benchmark. But like actually when I moved, well, maybe this isn't a good example. I probably shouldn't have done this, but like when I moved to this new house, we had so much to do. I was so busy all the time that it took me a while to set up the gym, so I didn't work out for like a month. So I do stuff like that. Also, sometimes some of my habits are like really extreme, and so I'll use the habit to learn something or to kind of gain some new perspective, but then maybe the right habit for like an ongoing basis might be less than that. So even like with working out, I was very hardcore about it, super hardcore about the diet for a while, and then kind of backed off. Let's see. Great question. So what home improvements am I making to have great experience with your friends? So should I try to turn around my camera? Maybe it's too much hassle. I built a tea platform over here. Right now I'm sitting at, I don't know if you can see, it's only this big, this little tea table that we made from an extra piece of countertop from my wife's old apartment that can only fit a few people, but I'm about to build a 7-foot long one that'll be really nice. Most of what my friends and I do is we just do what we're doing here today. We just sit around and drink tea. So I like to do that. I have a barbecue smoker. We have a swimming pool. We have a hot tub. Building a really cool garden soon. I used yardzen.com. It's not totally done yet, so we'll see. Or it's not even close to done. I haven't seen the plan yet, but they look really good. So I'm hoping to just create like a really cool environment here. Last night I was over at my friend's house helping him install his hybrid water heater right down the street. So a lot of what I'm doing too is just kind of building an awesome neighborhood and showing some of my friends how you can have like this amazing life in Vegas for not that much money, and we can all live together, or not together, but in the same neighborhood. So that's a lot of what I'm focusing on. And yep, oh wait, whoops, wrong one. Yep, that's how you spell it. I don't know anything about this. So actually I used to live in this neighborhood that was like definitely considered to be a pretty ghetto neighborhood. And it had this empty lot that was like totally trashed, and it had squatters on it and all this sort of stuff. And I tried to buy it because it was really cheap. And my idea was that I was going to buy it, and then it was zoned for like a 10-story building. I think it was supposed to be commercial. So I was going to buy it, and then later when I have a lot of money, build like a crazy, tower or something, like a little 10-foot tower. And then I've also built a little cabin on the island. Other than that, I don't really know. I think it's maybe better just to buy a house that's like roughly what you want and then renovate it, but I could be wrong. I don't really know too much about that. So Habitat, it has like a lot of point and click sort of stuff, and that's actually all I've used so far. It also supports something called WebCore, which is like a little bit more advanced. I've used that before. And last, it has an amazing API. So you could actually just write your own program and whatever you wanted, and then just get and set stuff from there. Which, if I know myself, that's probably what I'm going to be doing in a year. But actually, it works really well, even just like just choosing stuff from the dropdown. I've been impressed with it. Hybrid water heater. So to me, it is just the coolest thing in the world. It looks like a normal water heater, like this much of it. It's kind of like shorter. And then the top part of it is essentially an air conditioner running in reverse. So an air conditioner takes heat from your house and pumps it outside. That's why it's called a heat pump. But what this does is it takes heat from the air and pumps it into the hot water. And so even though here in Vegas it was like freezing at night, that it can still take heat from the cold air and put it in. It's amazing. I watched like so many videos about it. I read about it because it's just like the most impressive technology. I still don't really get it, or I don't get the mechanism exactly, but it's pretty cool. I'm not sure if tankless is better or not. I didn't do tankless because I just didn't want to run all the crazy wires. But it might be similar. I'm not sure. Yeah, I guess it might depend also on your environment, which one's better. Most expensive thing we did for home improvement would be solar panels for sure. Although whether it's expensive or not, I guess depends on how you factor in the fact that it will actually be negative cost in the long run. We got our floors all redone with epoxy floors, which nobody ever uses in residential. It's what they use in garages usually. Um, but it's pretty awesome. It looks really cool. It looks almost like terrazzo or something like that. And you could like drive a truck through the house and it wouldn't damage it. You could spill water on it, it wouldn't matter. So I don't know why other people don't use it. It looks really cool. I don't think I have a very good system, to be honest. I think you could evidence that by the fact that I make tea rooms before I do anything else. Um, I think for me, it's a mix of like what's going to make me enjoy the house more and get me more excited, and like what really needs to get done soon. So like, we had to do the floors and paint before we could do anything else. So I just did that first. Um, my goal was just to make it so that I could live here. That was the first thing. Um, and then we kind of did the interior, and now as it's getting, it's springtime and summer, we're trying to do the yard, because our yard has zero plants. The guy before us hated plants, which is kind of funny. Um, I'm actually not convinced sauna has big benefits, to be honest. I wish it did. I do it all the time. I enjoy it, but I've looked into the research, and I think it's a little suspect. Like the one big study that everybody hangs their hat on is this study that shows that like in Sweden or Norway, the more people use sauna, the healthier they are. But I think that's very likely to be a causation correlation thing, where if you're richer, you are more likely to sauna, but you also have probably less stress and access to better healthcare. Maybe not in the Netherlands, but better food, stuff like that. So yeah, not convinced, but I enjoy it. What I did is I just bought an infrared sauna on Craigslist. It's one of those things that's perfect to buy on Craigslist because they're so expensive. They're like thousands of dollars. But when people want to get rid of them, they can't just eBay them. They have to sell them locally. So I think we paid $400 or $500 for ours, and it's like a pretty high end, like should be like $3,000 or $4,000. As far as I can tell for the health benefits, I think the health benefits, by the way, are like tea. Like do it regularly and you get some tiny effect, but probably doesn't matter that much. It seems that infrared is possibly better for you than Finnish sauna. Finnish is where you have the hot rocks and you pour water on it. But that's what we're going to build outside. We're going to have a Finnish sauna and probably get rid of the infrared one. Hold on. Congratulations, David. That's awesome, man. One piece of advice for people who are just buying houses is I would always just like hardcore customize your house exactly as you want it and don't care about resale value. I did that with my first house, which I bought in Austin, and I did insane things that everybody told me was going to destroy the retail value. Like in one bedroom, I ripped out the closet so it would be a perfect rectangle because the closet kind of like jutted into it. Built risers, covered up the window, painted the whole thing, including the ceiling black, put in movie theater seats, built this whole projector screen and all this. And like definitely most people who looked at the house had zero interest in it and thought that a psychopath lived there. But the people that ended up buying it they were the only offer I got. They bid over asking, and they were like so excited about it. And so even like my old apartment now that I'm selling in down the street, I did a lot of customizations to it, and I just did it for me. But I think now it'll probably end up selling really well for that. What do I use mostly? Mostly lamps and stuff like that. I'm trying to think if I have any overhead lamps. Yeah, it'll be more and more lamps too. Like right now, there's some overhead ones that I'm trying to get rid of. Something you'll notice if you look in like really high-end design magazines or something is that lights are always multiple sources of lights. It's never like that one light in the middle because it creates terrible shadows, looks really bad. So you really want multiple points of light. And it tends to be lamps. I think there's something about lamps that end up looking better. So it was concrete before. It was concrete, and then it was super cracked, and so like you couldn't just polish it. I guess maybe you could, but it would look weird. So we had the guy grind it down and then epoxy it and put like full paint flecks in it. So it's mostly white with like little black and brown and tan and stuff. Looks pretty cool. Maybe I can post a photo somewhere or something like that. Where'd that go? Oh, on the island, there's cell service. It works great. we got really lucky on that one. And it seems to get better every year. It's just like faster and faster every year. I try to automate everything. I feel like I have enough good things to do in my life that I don't really mind automating stuff. I mean, I guess we use a dishwasher. We don't have anything super fancy for that. Haven't yet gotten a new robot vacuum for this one, but probably will. My old one wouldn't really be right for this house. Trying to think, is there anything we don't automate? I pick up my own food. I don't know why I go to Chipotle. I like something about the extra $5 really annoys me, even though it's not all that expensive at the end of the day. In general, I just automate everything though. I don't think I've ever automated something and then thought, boy, I wish I was doing that manually. Let's see. I agree that is one thing I notice is that I sleep better for doing that. Funny you should mention, I have a replica and I hate it. I want to get rid of it. If you're in Vegas, I'll give you a deal. Yeah, so for automation of lights, I do it 90 something percent just by time based around sunrise, sunset. So like when it's sunset, the pool light and the outdoor lights go on, bedroom lights go on dim, hall lights turn on, stuff like that. I like to have most lights super dim everywhere. It just looks nice. It looks like a nice restaurant or a club or whatever, resort or something. But if we're doing a puzzle or something, I just tell Google to turn on the lights. I generally try to make it really hard to turn on the lights manually so that I have to automate it. So I have to think about okay, well, if there's motion here and this person's home and this person's not home, that probably means this. So I have a bunch of stuff like that. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Oh, scroll too much. Best projects. Get a good mattress. The mattresses that come with RVs are usually just terrible, really, really bad. And if you just get an Amazon one, I think I had to cut mine because the RV mattress isn't quite the right size. You'll sleep a lot better. It makes a big difference. We will grow stuff in the garden. Two things we've done before is we got those little arrow gardens, which are really cool. Eventually they just become, so an arrow garden's this little thing about this big, or I guess they have bigger ones too. And it automates growing plants. So it does the light cycle, it waters them, all that kind of stuff. And it works remarkably well. I'm not good at growing stuff and it works great. So we've done cherry tomatoes, you can do basil, you can do all sorts of greens. Eventually what happens is the bases of the plants get so big and gnarled that you kind of have to just trash it and start over. But that was fun. The other thing we bought is we got something called the Garden Tower, I think. Garden Tower or Garden Tower Project. And it's sort of this vertical garden you can put outside. We tried it in our apartment, but we didn't have enough light in the landing. So we're going to put it out here. We're just waiting to see, I don't know anything about, apparently you need to think about where the shade is going to be and where the sun's going to be and put it in a certain location. So waiting for the landscape people to tell us where to put it. I lived in an RV that was 200, 150 square feet or something. It was totally fine. Our house now is 3,000 square feet. I think you don't need that much, but the more you have, the more you can have guest rooms for your friends and have a gym and have extra tea rooms, stuff like that. So, I don't know. I kind of think the bigger the better, to be honest. I know it's kind of the opposite of, what I should be saying or thinking, but I love having extra space. It's fun to walk around the house and, have my tea room, have areas to read, have my office, all that kind of stuff. Good question, Ethan. Still working on it, to be honest. I'm not sure. I guess on one hand, I don't worry about it very much. On the other hand, I do basically just do whatever I want all the time. And a lot of that's productive work or trying to learn new skills. But I do sort of wonder, should I just be super hardcore again? And I kind of feel like I might have another phase like that. If I found something I really wanted to exist, I think that's why Elon is willing and able to work so hard, is that he really cares about those things existing. And I think maybe when I was in a worse financial situation, it was a mix of like, I really want to make money and I also want to work on something that I care about. So it wasn't like a 10 out of 10 it had to exist. It was like 6 out of 10 it had to exist, plus, the finances. So yeah, it's something I'm working through. I think a lot of my friends are working through that as well. So is Chipotle 100% perfect? Probably not. Is it 90%? Yeah, I think so. And it's just a really easy backup, easy default that I can just eat every day. And I think the benefit I get from not having to think about meals, prepare meals, all that sort of stuff is totally worth it. Happy Easter. I didn't really even realize it was Easter till this morning. So just any of them are fine. They're just anything that Z-Wave or Zigbee is good. Usually Zigbee is better than Z-Wave for sensors, but for lights doesn't really matter. Find ways to automatically order. No, I just do it myself because sometimes I want it. I pick it up anytime between like 5:30 and 6. Sometimes I get stuck in a project and do a little bit later. So yeah. There's First Alert, Z-Wave, carbon monoxide / smoke detector that I use. Flooding, I use a little SmartThings sensor. I actually don't use it anymore, but I did in the old apartment. I thought that our place in Hawaii was going to require regular maintenance, and then I left there right before COVID. It was the last trip I did before quarantine, and then we left the windows open accidentally, came back almost a year later, and everything was totally fine, except it was kind of dusty. So, it wasn't too bad. I would love to talk about automation. Let me know what kind of automation questions you have, and I can tell you. I think it is harder in other countries. I was looking forward to having more stuff like that in Budapest, and it's like the standards are different or the parts are different. So I don't have too much experience there, but I'm sure it's doable. I have a pretty funny story about this one. So I've been automating my house since before the blog. In fact, right around 15 years ago, when I first started the blog, I was doing this sleep experiment, and I had like all this automation to wake myself up. I even had something that would turn a noisy air compressor, like a commercial air compressor, on that I put on the pillow next to me to wake me up. But at that house, I had motion detectors everywhere, and so I had all these things where, like, if it detected motion in the bedroom, but not from like looking out under the bed, it would know that you're in bed or something like that. And it was very complicated. It's like the kind of thing where I kept, building and building and building layers on this. And then at some point there was a bug where randomly in the middle of the night, all of the lights in my bedroom would go super bright, like the lamps, the overheads, the bathroom lights, it was like bright as day basically. And for the life of me, I could not solve this bug. There was like nothing it's not like there was some other thing that should trigger that. Like there was no way that should happen. And so eventually I gave up and I just started sleeping like this. I would just sleep like with my face in the crook of my arm. And, I would wake up in the morning, the lights would be super bright. And to this day, I sleep that way 15 years later because for a year I couldn't fix that bug. Kind of ridiculous. I put them all on credit cards. When things have 0% financing, I do that because right now it's just so easy to earn huge amounts. My general backup one is I do the Citi Double Cash, 2% back on everything. There are tricks you can do to get like 2.5% on some other ones. But really, when we got the house, I just signed up for like 3 or 4 new credit cards. So did my wife. And so we could get all the sign-up bonuses. And the sign-up bonuses are going to be way more than what we're spending overall. Off topic. Interesting question. Yeah, Isaac has come to 2 of my events. He's the only person to come to one in the US and in Budapest. So I thought that was really cool. Super, super awesome guy. I don't really, I don't know, maybe part of it is vanity, right? Like I think you feel good, connecting with people who care about what you're saying, for sure. But I think also that what I like about the events especially is that I think I can see I can see the impact it has. Sometimes when I write, it's just sort of, I feel like I'm just writing out to nowhere. And I think it's also very gratifying for me to meet readers and see that they're the kind of people that I hope that I'm writing for. I think I've talked about this before, but I remember when I first did a meetup way back, like probably 12 years, 15 years ago, I was so nervous that I was going to meet my readers and not like them. And then probably like just stop writing because, it's like a weird, who cares? Like they aren't people that I want to impact. So one of the most gratifying parts about my in-person events in particular is just to meet super awesome people like Isaac. And, Isaac, I'm sure, can say good things about the other people who were there. Just nice to connect with those people and to kind of know who I'm writing for and really kind of understand their lives better. Let's see. What I found matters most for a mattress, RV or otherwise, is just to get a really thick memory foam mattress. Like get a 10 or 12-inch mattress. I had a super fancy latex foam one in my RV. I really liked that. For an RV, it's slightly better because it will keep you cool. So if you're going to be in hotter places, I guess it wicks heat away or breathes better or something like that. But in general, I would just get a thick mattress. But I'll tell you one more funny story. When I got married, I had my own apartment here that was pretty small, and it had 2 bedrooms. One was where I sleep, and then the other was my office. And then the living room is small, and there's not a lot of sound isolation. And so as I got married, we sort of realized that this probably wasn't going to be the right living space for 2 of us. Cause if I'm working, then where's she really going to go? It's not like there's room for another desk in the bedroom. So my wife bought the apartment next door, and she wanted to buy a mattress for it. And so I was gone, and she calls me and she says, "Oh, I'm at this mattress store and they're having this sale, and I can buy this I forget what it was. It's this $6,000 mattress for $1,000, like a real Tempur-Pedic, like the super high-end fancy one." And I kept saying, I'm "Don't buy it. It's a total ripoff. Just get one on Amazon. It's $200. She ignored me and bought this mattress. And, it was mainly the guest mattress. So I didn't sleep on it forever. And then finally one night I slept on it, and I couldn't believe how comfortable it was. And now I basically wouldn't sleep on another mattress. Or I guess I would, but it's worth it. It's more worth it than I thought. Lots of thoughts on having kids. Maybe I'll save that because that's a longer one. Probably won't have them, but not ruling it out for sure. For sprinklers, I use something called a Raccio, RACCHIO. Here in Vegas, they give you back 50% of the purchase price of it. And so it's sort of like a no-brainer to just buy one. So I have a 16-zone one, and our yard has 2 zones, so room to grow. But that's something I'm really excited about doing, is getting all drip irrigation everywhere so I can have a super lush garden, and even our little planter that we're going to grow food on, have that all automated. With Habitat, I'm not worried. Habitat keeps it all offline. That's one of the, I probably should have mentioned that. That's one of the coolest things about Habitat, is that it's local execution. So if you use Samsung SmartThings, which is what I used to use, and you say on through Google or through your phone, it actually sends it to the Samsung cloud, then sends it back to your house. So there's a delay. Habitat is all local. It's just like a little computer, probably a Raspberry Pi kind of thing. And so it's much faster response time, and you keep all the data. Let's see. Blinds, curtains. I use some called Dooya, Dooya. They were the best ones a long time ago. I have no idea if they are or not. On AliExpress, there's a lot of them for sale now, and I'm going to have to get some because some of our windows here, we don't have space to do side opening ones because it would block the window, so we have to get up and down ones. So I'll be looking into that soon, but I don't know a lot. But I do know AliExpress has a lot of them. I really should do it. It's one of those things where I'm always working on the house. I guess it's the same with gear, but I always have one other project right over the horizon, so I think I'll wait to do that. It's also a ton of work. I really don't like doing the gear post, to be honest. I like it when it's done, and there are parts of it I like, but it's a big hassle to do it. And the home automation one the home one would be significantly harder. But what I may do is have someone video it for me. Maybe I'll do a walkthrough or something so I don't have to write it all. I don't know. We'll see. I should do it. Yeah, at some point I'll do something like that. I think it's very different quality of life in Japan and the US. For me personally, I think the quality of life in the US, especially in Vegas, which I think has by far the highest quality of life in the US anywhere, I think it's better for me. I think a lot of that comes down to like convenience, being able to drive around, having more friends here. Yeah, I don't know. But Japan's very high. I mean, Japan's an awesome, awesome place. I love being in Japan. I think it's the number one best place to visit. I think even for like a place to like go for like a month, it's probably like the best place you could choose for even any extended visit. So yeah, it's definitely nitpicking. I think both are great. Yeah, we have a van in Hawaii that we use for like scuba diving mostly, stuff like that. Yeah, I cannot wait. I'm vaccinated finally, which feels great. And so I can't wait to have events soon. In fact, one of the things on my to-do list is to email all the people that we had to cancel an event because of COVID. So to email them and start scheduling for them. I got Pfizer. I would get any of them at this point. I was thinking maybe I wouldn't get Johnson and Johnson just because I was worried that countries wouldn't accept it, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So Pfizer and Moderna are the best ones, but I would get any of them. Yeah, that's a good question. A really good question. I think I think it really depends on the use case and stuff like that. I think these days I tend to be more inclined to buy something a little higher end because I think I've seen enough times that what happens is I buy something that's cheap and then I underestimate how much I'm going to use it or how long I'm going to keep it. So for example, a long time ago, I bought the cheapest drill that was like a reasonably good drill that you could buy. And every time I use it, I find it annoying. There's just like, it's not that powerful. The battery dies. It has like annoying interface things. The chuck really sucks. And so like bits slip. And it's never worth buying a new one for one project. And so I always just use the stupid drill that I don't like using. And so last week I just bought a Milwaukee, which are the best. And it's a joy to use. And I love it so much. And even though I've only done a couple little projects, it's one of these things where I'm like, oh, I should have just bought that to begin with. But I also think I'm at a point now where for most things, the difference between buying like the cheap one and the expensive one is not going to make a difference. Now, maybe, you know, like when I bought my car, I bought a used version of the car instead of a new one because I saved $40,000, which is a lot of money to me. You know, so maybe that's like an example where I might go the other way. But I find these days I just tend to buy the good stuff. Yeah. Oops. Let's see. Boy, this sounds like someone who's casing my house. So we have automated locks, we have motion detectors, we have cameras. I had a security system. Now I'm sort of building my own out of all the automation stuff, which I think is maybe kind of better way to go. But in general, I think if I just know somebody's there and make something loud, that'll help. Taylor, I would love to. I just don't know a lot, to be honest with you. Oh, one thing I'll mention. Do I have one near me? Oh, maybe this is one. This might be a ghetto one, actually. I think this might be a knockoff, but I'll show you. All right, so is this a knockoff or a real one? Anyway, these are self-watering pots, and these are the best invention ever. I love these things. So you see this thing here. You probably can't see it that well. It's like a little meter. And basically the bottom part of this is water and the top part is like a layer of rocks and then soil. So what happens is you water it normally in the beginning and then the roots go down into the water and then you just have to fill up the water. And so this pot, probably I water once every month or two, maybe. So we do still have some manually watering ones there. I have thought about running my own irrigation system indoors and basically connecting it to these things. I did that for actually it's right over there, a humidifier. I got a float valve and drilled a hole and made it fill itself. So yeah. Ooh. I might take you up on that, Denny. Yeah. I will never like Apple products. Probably. I mean, you can't say it as a blanket rule. And I bought an iPod Nano back in the day because it was the best thing. The thing about Apple products is that they are a mediocre product dressed up as a premium product. And because they have such a large market share, they have to appeal to the average consumer, which means that they can't be excellent at anything. That said, the M1 chip is excellent. So there are exceptions, but in general, that's the case. For almost anything like a laptop, camera, phone, when you have competition, you have other manufacturers, one of them is always going to be better. So I think it would be almost impossible that I would ever realistically buy another Apple product. But you never know. I also feel Tesla is the Apple of cars, by the way, although a little more excellence and pioneering than Apple. Yeah, that's awesome. That's one of my favorite parts too. I probably should have mentioned is the people from the events often stay in touch with each other, and then I once in a while get to hear about it. And yeah, that's really cool. Oh, Nick's here. Please read the questions out loud that you're answering for those who are listening to the audio. Just for you, Nick, I'm going to do it. Nick was my guest last week. If you missed that one, you should watch it. He was my first guest. Super, super fun to have him. Oh, look at that. Look at this. Nick, you're getting a compliment. I like that other dude last Tynan Tea Time. He's a good co-host. I agree. Nick is an excellent. Nick's generally just an awesome host. That's sort of what he does. He's awesome. Are you still into 3D printing? Yes, very much into 3D printing. Have I done anything recently? Actually, yeah, I had a cool project. This is the kind of thing that you would not ever buy a 3D printer for, but if you have one, it's the perfect use. So our old drawer pulls, like on a cabinet, the handle for the drawer was a weird size. It was 120 millimeters between the two holes, the screw holes that hold it on. And for the life of me, I couldn't find any other handles that use that. I wanted to replace them with something more modern. And so we found a couple, but they look terrible. It's just not a standard size, I guess. So found some that were close. They were 123 or 4. So I made a little jig with the 3D printer that had studs that would stick into the old holes, and then it had like a drill guide that you could drill through the new hole. So I would just take off the old one, stick it on, drill through, and then it was perfect for the other one. So I really like stuff like that. Yeah, for sure. I think that even before all this COVID stuff happened, I left, a lot of my friends were starting to leave, and there were these even some of my friends that are hardcore San Francisco people would say things like, oh yeah, if I didn't have to be in San Francisco, I wouldn't be here. And that's interesting to me, because when I first moved there, it was the opposite. Everybody you would meet would be like, San Francisco is the best and it gets better every day. And that was how we all felt. I think that it's the Apple of cities. Well, I don't know if is that really true? It's just overhyped. It definitely has a lot going for it. It's not like a garbage city, but the reality of living there now, I think, is a really poor value in terms of what you get. And I think even just in an absolute sense, not even cost-wise, it's just not what it used to be. The people, it has this monoculture of people. It's dirty now. There's homeless people everywhere. The government's, I'm sure it's a tough job. I'm not criticizing them necessarily, but I think it's just a really tough one. Let's see. Favorite technology hardware purchases that you've made in the past year? The water heater. I know that's the most boring answer in the world. I really like the water heater. What else? I'm trying to think of what I bought in the last year. A lot of stuff I just brought over from the old house. Probably the Habitat. The Habitat is just for the longest time, I've been looking for the perfect home automation thing that's very customizable, but also not a huge hassle. And Habitat is perfect. Anybody can use it. I do. I have a 2 tatami mat room right behind us over there. I was thinking about recording one of the tea times from it sometime. Maybe I'll do that next week. Since Nick's on audio only, George is saying he hopes you have an awesome Easter. I also hope that. Oh, look at this. A lot of people who know Nick. Nick, you better be watching video. A lot of people are saying hi, but I'm not going to read them all. Nice. Yeah, that's another thing about San Francisco. The crime is just like totally insane there now. Like if you have a car there, it will get broken into. It's just, you know, just totally standard. Hmm. Theory of Everywhere says, I'm flying home to visit my family this week after learning about the Flight Connection site on the last tea time. Thanks, Nick. Flight Connections is a really good site, especially if you're like a travel hacker and you're like buying one ways to connect and stuff like that. It's really, really good. Um, how do you and your friends balance high energy activities with downtime or solo time to recharge and relax? I think it just sort of happens naturally. I don't know. All of us tend to have stuff going on, like whether it's work or just answering emails and stuff like that. So I think we naturally get into a routine where it's like we do some activities together or something like that, and then we just spend some time in work. I think that's a lot of what I like about my friends is we're all kind of on the same wavelength. Maybe Nick a little bit less. Nick wants to be doing stuff constantly, and I think it kind of drives him nuts that I don't want to do as much as he does. But generally, I think my ideal thing is that we do, do like one cool thing per day, and then kind of the rest of the time I like to, just work and email, stuff like that. The new M1 MacBook is amazing. I mean, the rest of the computer and the operating system I don't like, but look, the chip is probably the best chip you can get out with it right now. And it's truly unbelievable. So I'm happy to give credit where credit's due. So I have a humidifier because actually, so you see this piece of art, you can't see it that well. Let's see, can I tilt it a little bit? Let's see. Oh boy, there we go. So that's by an artist named John Cedarquist. And what it is it's inlaid wood, different types of wood, and he uses the grain to create this 3D effect. And this guy's like a famous artist. He's in the MFA in Boston, probably the Met, stuff like that. Took me years and years and years to like track him down and like find a way to buy one of his pieces. And when he sent it to me, he said, hey, by the way, I noticed you're in Vegas. You can't have this in Vegas without a humidifier. The wood is gonna crack. And I'm an idiot, so I didn't believe him. I thought, I've got time, I'll figure it out. And it started to crack. So I got a humidifier basically just for that piece. So there's one right over there. And I would prefer to have a whole house humidifier. I just think it's better for your skin and stuff. But it's sort of a ridiculous process. So I'm waiting until we have to replace our air conditioner, and then I'm going to get one. What hip hop music are you listening to? Boring answer, but I just listen to Lil Wayne and Rick Ross. I just love them. Yeah. If you didn't have family and childhood friends in the US, could you imagine living in Europe? How would you compare living in the US versus Europe, pros and cons, or would Tokyo to be your first choice? It's tough. I could imagine living in Europe. I mean, especially somewhere like Budapest. Budapest is such a livable city. And I think your daily experience there would just be so great. Not sure I'd want to be there for the whole winter, but whatever, you can travel. Maybe a lot of why I want to live in the US just because I'm so used to it. So a lot of it is like, in the same way I don't want to have to make a zillion decisions per day, I'd rather just focus on stuff that matters. There's some comfort in living in the US where I know how to operate really well within it, so I can focus on other stuff instead of just focusing on where I'm living. But I'm not sure. Europe versus Tokyo, I feel like I would choose Tokyo these days. I don't know. It's hard to say. I think honestly, all of them are great options. Yeah. So thoughts on living on the East Coast, favorite city. So I'm actually from Boston. I love Boston, and I'm probably so biased that you shouldn't take my answer. You shouldn't think about my answer at all. But I think Boston is a really underrated city. I think it's really beautiful. I think it has amazing history. I think it sort of lives in the shadow of New York. So it's like people just think of it as like little New York or something. The food is great there. I really like Boston. I would consider living there. I went to a private school there that was so good that I think if I did have kids, I would consider moving back so they could go to school there. I don't know. What's up? Candy's here. Awesome. Candy and I met because we are friends with Roxanne Modafferi, who is UFC fighter, and she's one of the pioneers of women's MMA and just one of the like sweetest, nicest people in the world. And so, yeah, we haven't been recently, but usually Candy and I go to a lot of her fights and we kind of hang out there. That's really cool. Have you picked up any Hungarian? Ichkicsit. Little bit, but I feel like I'm getting to the point where like if people are talking and it's like very basic stuff, I can understand some. But boy, like in terms of me ever being able to do any of the grammar, I started to learn it, and then they got to something called vowel harmony or consonant harmony. What is it? Vowel harmony, where you basically just change words to make them sound good together. And yeah, that was it for me. I gave up at that point. Kind of a cool language. I don't know. I do consider whether I should try to learn more, but I have made really poor progress on it and probably will continue to. But we'll see. Now that, not having been to Budapest for so long now, I'm dying to go back. And so maybe I'll spend more time there and pick up more. That'd be cool. In your experience, what is the biggest or most common thing holding people back in life, and how would you overcome it? Oh, good question. It's funny. I kind of click the questions before I read them all, and so I keep thinking of them as being like home automation ones, and I get hit with a deeper one. Most common thing holding people back in life. I think most people don't make decisions for themselves. I don't know. I mean, is this really the number one? I'm not sure, but it's the one that comes to my mind. Is I think that most people end up living within a very narrow lane, kind of like Nick's Tesla is right now, where they don't really consider why they're doing what they're doing. They don't consider other options. They don't consider anything that other people don't do or that few people do. If they want to do something even within the realm of what's normal, but they think people will think it's weird, they don't do it. And so, I think what's amazing about people is that we can all be so different, and we can have different interests and learn different things and share that with other people. And I think most people don't really do that. I think most people just kind of live a very normal life, which, is certainly their right. And if people want to do that, that's fine. But I think it's sad. I think we have a lot of missed potential. So I think probably anybody watching this is not somebody who would do that or would be interested in doing that. So I think in general, yeah, thinking for yourself. And maybe another one I would add is that I think people are really bad at assessing risk, and most people don't take nearly enough reasonable risks in their life. They don't think about the pros and cons and really weigh the EV of making certain decisions. All right. Ooh, I made it to the bottom of the questions. I can drink my tea now for a second. All right. Any other home automation, home improvement, office environment improvement kind of questions? God, this thing's really hot now. Or general questions are fine too. Oh, with socks. I don't wear socks. I hate socks. That's part of why I moved to Crocs, because then you don't have to wear socks. I will say there have been times when I walk 10 miles in a day and I maybe wish I had socks. But generally I don't wear socks. If I were going to wear them, I would get wool socks that are the little no-show ones that are super low because they don't take up any space. In fact, I should probably keep a pair in my backpack. Is it worth saving for a pension? Do we save for pensions in the US? I don't think so. In general, if you're in the US, so yeah, I can only speak for US because I don't know the retirement account formats for other countries. In general, in the US, you should be maxing out every retirement sort of thing you possibly can. Because there are massive benefits for doing so, and you can get the money out if you really, really need to. So it's sort of like an asymmetric risk where if you don't need it, which you probably won't until you retire or whatever, that money grows with no taxes, which is a huge, huge benefit. And if you do need it, there are often ways you can get at it with no penalty, or if you pay the penalty, probably, it's worth it in that case. So I would definitely do that. There's also a cool thing. If you're in the US, you can get an HSA, health savings account. If you're really healthy, then I have spent $0 on medication for ever, I guess, since '99. I haven't been to the doctor. It lets you pay. You're covered for catastrophes, but then you also get to invest in a really amazing tax advantage thing. You can only do 3,600 a year, but hey, might as well do it and do super risky stuff and hope it goes up. Some good questions here. Awesome, man. You guys are awesome. What do you think of our current education system? So, what do you think of our current education system? If you were to have kids, how would you educate them? Number one thing I would do is I would send my kid to Montessori. I went to Montessori, and something that was interesting is that I noticed that many of my friends have gone to Montessori. One of my friends, Brian, I don't think he's here today, but he's been here for the other two. We met in Montessori when we were 4 years old, and we're still friends. Montessori teaches kids how to think independently and how to sort of like learn by themselves. And it's just such a positive thing that I think the early stages of education are way more important. I think you learn nothing of value essentially in high school and college. I think who you are is formed at a younger age, so it's much more important. So I would 100% do that. I think a lot about homeschooling versus non-homeschooling. I think I benefited greatly from being in school and being around peers and making friends, some of who I still have today. I hated school, and so I think even if I can have that perspective now, maybe, for people who don't hate school as much, it would be benefit. So I don't know. But I think the problem with school is that it makes you not like learning as much, which is really a bad thing. Tough question. Recommendations on office ergonomics. Yes, I have an Aeron, which this might be old school advice, but I used to have some like crappy Office Depot chair, 15, 20 years ago. My back hurt every night. I thought that's what life was supposed to be like. Like you lie in your bed and your back just hurts for like 10 minutes. Got an Aeron and my back has never hurt again, even though I like slouch. Like when I'm working, I'm sort of like this usually. So I love Aerons, and I just always get Aerons. For a monitor, I used to have this huge monitor that was like a standard 16 by 9, I think it's 43 or 49 inches. And I found that I had some eye strain, which it might just be because I'm old, don't know. I switched to a Samsung 49-inch super wide. It's like this wide, so it's almost like 3 monitors next to each other. I don't think was worth the upgrade because it's not that different, but I do think maybe it's better for eye strain, and it's curved, and I think that may help with eye strain. Not totally sure. I hate standing desks. I think it's a total scam and doesn't matter. I think it's kind of interesting using a standing desk when you're doing like video calls. I don't know why. There's something about it makes it feel a little more real. But for work, I find it's so much harder to concentrate, so I just sit. I'll give a shout out though. When I first moved to Vegas, Ergo Depot sent me like thousands of dollars of free office stuff. I think one of the people there was Reader. And it was just like the nicest thing ever. They didn't ask for anything in return. I wrote about them a little bit on the blog, but nothing big. They sent me like thousands of dollars of awesome office stuff, and I still use it. Speedbreak Aviation. Wow, cool photo. I think EV is way underrated for making so many decisions. I think so too. I can't imagine how people operate in life without thinking about EV. It's like, to me, it's just like going through life totally blind, just feeling your way instead of actually like making smart decisions. My grandmother's born and grew up near Budapest, spent her young adulthood in cities of every glamorous, chic young woman. Such a great city. Man, I don't know how old she is, but Budapest is a pretty awesome, glamorous, chic city, but you can tell like post-war or pre-war, it was probably even more so. Yeah. Also, random Budapest thing. I was thinking about feeling through life blind. They have this amazing, I don't even know what it is. It's an experience where you can experience what it's like to be blind. You're led by blind people, and they teach you how to operate in this totally pitch black place. They have like a whole apartment with no lights. They have a street with no lights with like fake moving cars. They have a bar. I forget what they have a museum. And it's the coolest experience. You really get a feeling for what it's like to be blind. The guides were awesome. So much fun. I went with Derek Sivers. He came to visit in Budapest, and it was his idea. I was like a little iffy on it, and it was so much fun. Really cool thing to do. Did you go for the connected kettle where you can control it remotely, or the standard stag? So I actually don't. I'm in my little tea room now. I don't usually have tea here. This is where I have tea with guests. in my office, I have a Zojirushi water boiler. I wish I had the vacuum insulated one. It's so cool. It's more efficient. Can't quite justify it when mine works fine, but I'm thinking about how I can justify it. But I actually just yesterday made it automatic so that when I wake up, it turns on, and then at sunset, it turns off. Or if I leave the house, it turns off. And a cool side benefit is now when I go into my office in the morning, I hear it boiling, and it's kind of like a nice kind of morning sound. I really enjoy that. George asks, should everyone learn how to play poker so they can be better at risk taking? Who did I have this conversation with? Oh, I did a podcast interview yesterday, and the guy was asking, he said, how can you learn better to make better decisions besides learning poker? And I said, you should probably just learn poker. I think it's really worth learning a little bit of poker. There's also a book called Thinking in Bets by Annie Duke, who's like a world-class legend of poker. I didn't finish the book, but I read part of it, and it was one of those books where I'm like, oh yeah, this is how I think. It's just better explained than I could ever do. Poker forces you to learn about odds, learn about EV, and it also forces you, it teaches you how to take many forms of inexact information and distill it down to an exact decision. I think a lot of the benefits that I've experienced in my life are due to good decision making, but maybe even more so quick decision making. There's just been so many examples of things where I've been the first one to jump on something and it later was impossible or more expensive or more difficult. So I actually think everybody should learn poker. It's like you've got some leisure time. Why not learn poker? In efforts to move all of my banking needs to Schwab, I'm considering closing my Ally account and using another Roth account as my savings. Is this stupid? I don't understand the question. I would max out my Roth and treat that like a totally separate thing. You can move your Roth to Schwab. They have every single account type. Don't totally understand. Vince asks, how minimalist are you at your new house? What's your storage organization setup related? Do you still read a lot? If so, Kindle phone, any physical books in the house? Oh, you snuck like 7 questions in there. It's actually smart because then when I click on it, I feel like I have to answer them all. I think I'm not as minimalist as some people probably think. I think people, with a lot of things, some people think I'm super rich, some people think I'm super poor, some people think I'm super minimalist, some people think I'm not. I'm probably somewhere in the middle. With some things, I'm really minimal. Like you might notice I wear the same shirt every time. I only have one shirt really. But like, look, I have 2 tea rooms, a sauna, and a gym, and whatever else. I don't really think about minimalism, or maybe I should come up with some other name. I don't really think about it in terms of like how much stuff do you have. I think about it as how much does the stuff that you have matter. And so for sure I have some clutter and I'm working to get rid of it and whatever, like especially moving from the old house. Actually in front of me I have a half full plastic bin this big, and it's like stuff that I should probably just get rid of. But I think of like, am I getting utility out of this? And something I think about is, if I have something that I'm not getting utility out of, it actually has negative utility because I have to look at it. Like I hate that bin there, but I leave it in front of me, so I have to deal with it. So I'm not super minimalist, but I do think a lot about the items in the house and whether we need to have them. And in terms of furnishings and stuff, it's very clean and like not a lot of clutter. For storage and organization, just have shelves and closets, and I have like little plastic bins that are labeled and stuff like that. I still read a fair amount, not like the crazy year where I read 100 books or whatever. Actually, one of my good friends, Phil, just sent me a book, really good book. I just finished it night before last, called A Moral Man by Derek Del Guadio. And he also has an incredible magic special you should watch online, even if you don't like magic. It's really cool. And it's funny, it's the first physical book I've had in years. And in some ways it was really nice. Like I was sitting in my living room reading it. It was so nice. But mostly I read at night, and it was hard to read at night because I didn't want to have the light on to bother my wife. And now that I'm done with the book, I have no idea what to do with it because it's kind of a nice hardback book, but I'm not going to read it again. So I don't know. So mostly I read Kindle. How do you approach projects? Do you plan your automation project with my wife? She doesn't care. There's basically, I just do it all, and I kind of tell her about the changes and ask her. I'm always trying to get her to get into it. So we have these, this is a really good luxury anybody can get. We got a heated mattress pad for our bed, and it's 2 zones, so we can each set it to whatever temperature we want. And I had mine with this crazy sort of automation thing because you can't remotely control the temperature from 1 to 10. So I made a program that would turn it on, off, and cycle it to sort of emulate the right amount of heat. And so mine was like preheating. It was trying to figure out when I was going to go to sleep. And then when I got in bed, it would lower the temperature. And I was like so excited about this. And she's like, yeah, I have a button. I'll just set it to what I want. So she's not really that into it. But I think she likes that, like, locks. I think she appreciates it, but just doesn't care, basically. Look at this. Noah went to Montessori too. Nice. Yeah. Montessori. This is the funny thing is that, who talks about where they went for middle school? Nobody. But then when you see the people you associate with, you'll find that a lot of them are also Montessori people. Once in history class in middle school or in high school, my teacher was so annoyed with me because I wouldn't, I kind of did my own thing. She goes, Tynan, come outside right now. So I came outside and she just says, you went to Montessori school, didn't you? I said, yeah. How did you know that? And she said, the people that I always have trouble with are Montessori students because they're so independent that they just want to learn everything on their own. Kind of interesting. Have you used laptop stands? Makes a massive difference for me. I don't get it, man. I really don't get it. People have these ridiculous setups or elaborate setups. I like laptops. I don't know. I look down. I mean, I guess I look like a hunchback. Maybe I'll look more like a hunchback when I'm old, but I find it okay. What I do is I just kind of slouch usually so it's the right height. And I shouldn't recommend that to anybody, but that's what I do. What's the law policy you'd like to see changed in any of your home-based countries? Wow. Ooh, that's an interesting question. I'm tackling the big subjects here. I wish that electric skateboards were allowed in Japan. One of my electric skateboards 10 years ago, I brought to Japan and then was pulled over at like every possible stoplight. Got in these ridiculous confrontations with the police where I would like pretend I didn't understand Japanese and just try to play dumb, and they would chase me, and then I would try to explain in Japanese why I should be allowed to do it, and then they'd be really pissed at me. I wish I could ride an electric skateboard there. It'd be the perfect city for it. I met Derek Sivers. I'm a huge fan of Derek Sivers' work. I was a fan of his forever, and it's actually kind of cool how I met him. When I was doing Life Nomadic, I had this idea that I was going to write blog posts a week in advance, send them to some of like the hardcore readers, get feedback, edit it, and then post it. And so, Life Nomadic wasn't a very big blog. I only had maybe 1,000 readers maximum there. And so I put out this thing that said, hey, I have this plan. If you want to sign up, here you go. And I was looking at the emails that signed up, and one of them was like Derek Sivers or something like that. And I was like, wait a minute, that can't be the real Derek Sivers. Or maybe it's, and then I thought it was spam. I was like, oh, probably somebody just put his email in or something. And it turns out it was really him. And so I sent him an email and I was like, dude, I love your stuff. And so we chatted on the phone, and he invited me to come visit in New York. And I was like kind of intimidated to meet him because he's, I loved his stuff, and he's kind of this big blogger and all this. And then as soon as I got to his apartment, I noticed like everything he had in the apartment was something on my gear post. Like his backpack was right there and his shoes were right there. And I was like, okay, maybe I don't have to be intimidated. But I love Derek. We talk on the phone every few months, and we hang out when we can. And he's just one of these people that every time we hang out, it just feels like this, like, however long, like even one time I visited him for 3 days, and it was basically a 3-day long, super awesome conversation. One of my favorite people to talk to. And just like such an original thinker. I think that's one of the things I really appreciate about him. I feel like I'm listening to an audiobook with these tea time. That's what Nick's doing. Thanks. Wait, what? Oh, you guys have the blind experience in Germany. That's what you're talking about. That's so cool. Yeah. Maybe I just don't know about these things and it's more common. Look in your city and see if you can find these blind experiences. It was so cool. It's just like one of those things where first of all, you're going to really appreciate being able to see. At least I did. And it's just one of those things where you just know nothing about this world. And then you realize like, oh, there are like standard ways when you're blind to like walk around and not run into stuff. And yeah, it's really cool. Really, really cool. So yeah, the way Noah's asking how I automated the water boiler. It's easy because when you plug it in, it turns on. So I just put a little, automated switch on it. That was really easy. David says, I'm curious what it's like to have yard space instead of having no yard space, and is it worth it? How are you approaching yard design? I love having yard space. It's one of these things where I go out there and I'm like, I'm really embracing the suburban American dream because I just like walking around our backyard. Um, and right now our backyard sucks. It's totally empty. Like when we bought it, there were literally zero living things back there. And then there's a wall between us and our neighbor. And he has these really nice, like tall cypress kind of trees. And then the seller was like, oh, I've been trying to get him to cut those things down forever. I'm like, it's the one green thing I can look at. But just having some outdoor space, I like opening the doors. I like eating outside. I like swimming in the pool or going in the hot tub. Definitely worth it for me. The way we're approaching yard design, I'm really excited about. It's called yardzen.com, yardzen.com. And so I haven't done it yet. So we'll see how it comes out, but go to their site. Their results are pretty amazing. Noah's actually friends with the founder, so I talked to him a little bit about it, and he kind of vouched for them. So you take videos of your backyard, you take some photos, and then they use satellite imagery, and they like make a 3D model of your house. It's unbelievable what a good job they did. I spent like so much time using SketchUp, measuring everything, made this whole model of our house for the interior design. And in like no time at all, their version of the outside is like way better than what I did. It's so cool. So there, and then they have these like online quiz sort of things where like, which plant do you like better? Which look do you like better? And so it's a little tricky because they ask about budget and I just have no idea what it's supposed to cost to do a backyard. So I'm sort of curious to see what they come up with, if it's something that's like a good deal, if it's a ripoff, I really don't know. But I can't wait. Can't wait to do that. Let's see. Oh, someone else who knows Derek. Awesome. Isaac recommending Thinking in Bets. Yeah, such a good book. Yeah, Isaac's definitely the kind of person that would like that. Emily asks, is that Emily? I'd like to hear more about expected value and decision-making theories. Could that be a future blog post or tea topic? Yeah, for sure. That'd be a really fun tea time project, actually. Maybe we could even like break down some people's decisions. I think that'd be really fun. Ooh, all right, I should write that down. Maybe somebody can email me to remind me if they think about it. I have written about it. If you search for EV on my blog, you should be able to find it. If you can't find that, because maybe search won't work with just a 2-character thing, type expected value. And I've definitely written about it. I have a new idea. I'd be curious on feedback. This is what I'm thinking about doing, is coming up with 52 topics that I'm going to write about every year, and then one for each week. And then I would write a different take on the topic every time. So maybe, EV might be one. Every year I'm going to have 1 week where I write about EV in a different way. Thinking about doing that. Michael's asking if our sauna is a traditional sauna or infrared. What are the main decisions? Got an infrared one because it could be plugged into a normal outlet. That was the only reason. I think that traditional ones are way more enjoyable. I think they're so much more fun. But if there are health benefits, it appears that the health benefits are better for infrared, although who knows? I don't trust that. What we're doing now is, right now I just have this, it's a little 2-person infrared sauna. It's right over there near the gym stuff. I'm going to get rid of it, and then I'm going to build with my dad a traditional Finnish sauna in the backyard, and I'm also going to build a steam room, which is my real favorite, and they're going to be like a little outdoor spa near the pool. So that's going to be my little thing here. Oh shoot, I forgot how to pronounce her name. Marher. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Fatima also leaving. Wow, everybody's abandoning me. Good night. Thanks for joining. How do you begin? A good question. So I'm still happy to answer any home automation stories, but we can also do other stuff now too. It's been hour 15. Maybe I'm going to stick around for 15, 20 minutes here. How do you begin leveling up your social circle? You suggest introing friends to people, but what do you do when you're seeking harder to meet friends? So I think, this is sort of a crass way to put it, but I think the question is, what value would you bring to those friends? So it's not like I'm saying you don't have value. It's like, what would that be? What do they need? And I think that is sort of like a next level of social skills, is thinking like, what do these people actually want? And how can I either give that to them or bring it to them? And so, something I thought of, probably the one time I really thought about this methodically was when I moved to San Francisco, came in starry-eyed, wanted to have a startup or whatever. And I thought, okay, I need to meet more tech people. And for me, it was kind of obvious where I'm like, okay, I'm good at pickup. I know nothing about tech, but all tech people are nerds basically. So this is some skill that I can bring to them. So instead of saying like, hey, you're into tech, I am too, but I suck. I said, hey, you're into tech. I'm coming here from a different background. Maybe we could chat sometime. And I think that brought a lot of value to people. There was somebody who came into my social circle a little bit late in San Francisco, and I thought she was really smart. What she did was she maybe didn't have like an obvious background that was like a fit where she was going to be bringing like some new knowledge or something. So what she did is she really likes like hiking and the outdoors and stuff like that. She set up all these like amazing camping trips and hiking trips for our friends. And that was just really cool. It's like, well, now our whole friend group got leveled up because we have all these great experiences together. So I think really you just have to think about how would they benefit? Charlotte, you're getting me excited about home automation. What would be a good project to start with as a non-techie person? Lights. I would say buy some either Hue lights, Philips Hue, or Sengled, which is essentially the same as Hue but cheaper. That's what I use, SENG-LED. And then get a Hubitat, Hubitat. And then the most basic automation that you'll figure out in 2 seconds is turning lights turning lights on at sunset, off at sunrise, something like that. Once you start doing stuff like that, what you find is any additional thing you add to your home automation system multiplies what you can do, because you can say, okay, well, I could have it so when this is on, if I turn this light on myself, then this turns off. And so eventually the whole thing becomes automated. But I would just start with some lights. Even it could be that you want your bedside lights to turn on before you go to sleep, or you want, you could get some cool locks for your house, have your locks lock before you go to sleep, something like that. I have thought about getting a barrel sauna. For sure I'm going to get a Finnish heater. And the barrel sauna is very smart. Like it really, thermodynamically, it makes a lot of sense. I think because we're going to do a steam room separately, I'm going to do just rectangles so they can be next to each other and sort of match. Like it'll be a wood front for the sauna with like a little window, and then a glass front for the steam room. But I'm thinking so, not totally sure yet. Let's see, have not heard of that guy. From NJR, a somewhat philosophical question. Do you think the strong focus on productivity in the personal development blogosphere just detracts from enjoying a normal life with simple pleasures? I think it can. I don't think it has to. I do think that the problem with focusing on productivity for productivity's sake, and I've been guilty of this as much as anybody else, so it's not a criticism of anybody, is that you focus on busyness versus output or versus actually reaching goals. That's certainly something that I did. And what's interesting about it is that you eventually realize that a lot of times the busiest people are not the ones whose lives you actually want the most, or who have aspects of their life that you want to emulate. And so that was sort of a wake-up call for me. And then the other problem, I think, is that you get addicted to feeling like you have to work instead of just like sitting around reading a book or having tea with your friends or whatever. And so, yeah, I do think it's a problem. At the same time, I think that there is like, I think it's beneficial for a lot of people, certainly including myself, to go through a phase where you're single-handedly focused on productivity, because it makes you realize what you are capable of. And then you kind of have that mode where if you need to snap into it and get a lot of work done, you just snap back in and you know that you can do it. Before I got into that mode, I had essentially no idea. Like I wanted to believe that I could work hard, but I had no evidence for it. And so somewhere in the back of my head, I didn't know if I could do it or not. I do think in general, though, that like I would prioritize quality time with quality people. I think if you do that, you will have fewer regrets. What's up, Andrew? Thanks for joining. A little bit late, but we're happy to have you. Candy says, I have a house that I'm no longer renting out. What would be the smartest thing to do with it? Sell it and get it out of debt, or keep it and maybe turn it into an Airbnb? Um, I think it really, really, really depends on so many factors. Depends where you are, how much of it you own, how much you owe. Uh, I think Airbnb is a part-time job, and I think people don't realize that. So I think if you're open to having a part-time job and you have that kind of space, then could be a smart thing to do. I also think if you're going to get a lot of cash out of it, that you could invest in something better than an Airbnb. There's a lot of good opportunities right now to earn good returns, so I might do that. Um, if you're saying sell it and get out of debt, like non-house debt, then if that debt is like at any percentage, over like 5% for sure, I would just do that probably. But I would just do the math on it, and I would say like, okay, how much could I make with Airbnb? How much could I make? What's the opportunity cost? How much am I paying in terms of debt for that opportunity to make that money? How much of my time is it taking up? And I would just sort of figure out like what makes the most sense. Do I recommend a particular smart lock? I hate the August locks. Don't buy one of those. I would get anything that's Zigbee. That's a protocol that will work with anything, so you're not locked into like any sort of platform or hub. And Zigbee responds more quickly than Z-Wave, so it's better. So that's what I got. I think I got a Schlage one. Schlage is generally considered to be of the like consumer, Kwikset or Schlage. It's considered to be a little bit better. So I would get one of those. Yale also makes some okay ones, but you kind of can't go wrong. One interesting thing to think about is you can get an electric deadbolt or you can get an electric door latch. If you have a door latch, then it's a little bit more convenient because if you leave the door open and it automatically locks, when you close it, it'll close properly. If you have a deadbolt and you open it and leave it unlocked, it'll relock, but then you can't close the door without unlocking it. So it's something to think about. Let's see, Greg says, I've been doing some Home Assistant with Z-Wave HomeKit, found flaky and knowing to actually manage. What do you use to manage your home automation? Yeah, that's why I switched to Habitat. Habitat is rock solid, but still customizable. I tried to use Home Assistant and I really wanted to love it, but it was kind of flaky and annoying. I just didn't like it. Habitat is just by design better because it's all local. I guess Home Assistant is too. And I don't know much about HomeKit, but I think that's like the Apple one or something. And you can probably guess how I feel about that. How do you balance big goals like set and pick up with all the project skills you want to do and attain? I find I make the most progress with singular focus, but I close doors to other projects I enjoy. So the way I think about that is I think about what do I really care about happening in my life? And so, for pickup, it was like I was super introverted. I was terrible with women and I was single and I could see my path in the future. And it was pretty obvious I was going to be single or compromise or settle or whatever. And so for me, that was like solving that set of problems was so obviously valuable to me that I was willing to put everything aside. And I knew, of course, that there was a sacrifice involved. But for me, it was really worth it to knock those things out. Set was the same thing where it was, certainly financial motivation, but I think the other big thing with that was that I looked at my life and I was like, oh, if I don't get serious and learn how to work, I'm not going to ever have a level of wealth where I'm going to be able to do things that I want to do. Like there were certainly things I wanted to do that I couldn't afford to do, and it didn't appear that I was going to be able to. So that was enough for me to put everything else aside. These days, I don't have any big goals like that. And, part of me kind of wishes I did because it's fun to have that singular focus. But I'm also not going to just, I'm not going to just make some up just for the sake of doing it, because I found when you make up goals, they're not goals. It doesn't matter. So I think it's also worth being comfortable in that intermediate period where you can say, I don't have to have a big goal. I can live my life in different modes. It doesn't have to be this mode where I'm so focused on one goal. I can also just tinker around, build up my knowledge. I think I've developed a really wide set of skills and knowledge in this, time in between maybe big projects that will probably be valuable for my next project. and then I think also like now I have the luxury, and it certainly is a luxury, to focus more on family, social skills, stuff like that. And for sure, I care more about the people in my life and the connections than I do about, making more money or starting a startup or whatever. Hope that answers the question. Cool. When did we meet up, Greg? I feel like I'm so bad at that. Like I love meeting people and then I remember it. And then when I feel like I get all these people that say we met and then I can't remember them anymore. I don't know. For interior design, have you tried a similar company to Yard Send? I have a family member who's an amazing interior designer, like a professional. And so they just do it all for me, which is amazing. And I've learned a lot from them. So I think I can make their job easier because I can sort of make some rough choices and then they edit it and kind of make it all right. Yeah. How do you think about minimalist, orderly interiors versus coziness? To me, it seems like there could be a trade-off, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. For example, Japanese interiors. I think that I have a certain, I think I have very, very strong, using a pseudonym. Okay, well, how am I supposed to remember you then? I think I have a very strong opinion on how interiors look, and I think it overlaps reasonably well with what other people think looks good, but definitely not 100%. And so I don't really think about coziness versus minimalism. I think about other things. So my biggest thing is integrity of materials. This, like, every decision is made through that. I hate fake wood of any type. I don't like fake stone, fake brick. Like, these sorts of things drive me nuts. So I want everything in the house to look how it's supposed to look. I want a lot of light, a lot of windows. I don't want decorations that are, how some people have like coffee table things where it's like some weird geometric thing that serves no purpose. I don't want that. I like nature, so I want to have a lot of plants. I guess you can only really see one here, but I have a lot of plants everywhere. And I want things to look clean. I don't know. Maybe this is not very interesting, but I have certain things that I look for, and so I think those are sort of my guiding principles. I want everything to like look nice and clean, but I'm not going to get rid of something that has utility and will give me enjoyment of the room just because it looks clean. So I don't really think there's this is such a crappy answer. Sorry, I don't think there's a conflict between coziness and minimalism personally. And yeah, I think Japanese design is like a really good example of how they can combine those two things. Ooh, got a little bit of a lull. Someone wants tips on interior design. So keep in mind you're getting a copy of a copy, because basically everything I know I got from my family member essentially. But basically, here's some basics. Everything should be essentially white. See how the wall here is off-white and then the trim is white? You basically want to do that so the trim has some contrast. Our floors are white, but you could do any dark color too. So you don't want a lot of saturation. You want the biggest things to be neutrals. So black, white, gray, stuff like that. You want to have very sparing use of color, but you do use it sometimes. One of the big things I learned that was not natural to me is I wanted everything to be amazing. And what you really want is for a lot of things to just be clean and plain and blend in, so that then when you do have a few amazing, like an amazing light fixture or an amazing couch, it pops out and you notice it and it's not competing with a lot of other things. Get big rugs. Always get bigger rugs than you think. Get wool rugs typically. Mid-century modern is sort of a style that has endured over time. It's sort of never gone out of style. So I think you could look to that for a lot of ideas. Doesn't mean you have to do mid-century modern, but I think that they had the elements of design really good. And so even though if you look at mid-century modern, there's a wide range of how it looks, but they use similar elements and you can learn a lot, I think, by looking at that. And last, you can never have too many plants. Basically, any amount of plants you add to your place is going to make it look better and you're going to feel better. Last one, get 2700 Kelvin lights or lights that you can color change. You could have a beautiful interior with crappy lights and it's not going to look good. All right, it's been an hour and a half. I think we're going to do one or two more questions, then I got to go. Have you considered using open source autopilot for your car? Thanks for taking this question. Yes, I have considered using autopilot for my car. It doesn't work with my car, unfortunately. I did install this crazy module from AliExpress into the back of my steering wheel, and then got a laptop and custom flashed the ECUs in the car to do traffic jam assist, which is like a crappy version of autopilot where it'll follow a car in front of you and stay within a lane. The thing is that I think people don't realize how bad autopilot is right now. If you're just on a highway, I think it's actually relatively good, but I think it's a lot less useful than people think. I think we're so far behind the technology, like the perception of it versus where it really is not good. So I look forward to it in the future. I do think we'll solve that problem, but we're not there yet. All right, let's do one more question. Then I've got to put on real pants and get on with the day. Candy's asking if I've heard of a game. Have not heard of it. Oh, all right, if there's no more questions, maybe we'll just call it a day. So next week, I'm going to be on Noah Kagan's office hours on Friday. You can follow his channel. If you just search for Noah Kagan, you'll find him. I don't know what his topic's going to be or what we're going to do, but so much fun being on his show. I think he's like one of the best interviewers in the world. Not that it's an interview, but I think he asks interesting questions, and I always have amazing conversations with him. So really looking forward to being on that. And then he'll be on mine. It's going to be Sunday. It might be 11 or it might be 12. I'm thinking about making it a little bit earlier, just so I can have my tea at a more reasonable time and still have enough time to get ready. So yeah, thank you guys all for joining. It's so cool to see all these names that I recognize and see from my blog and from real life. Really, really awesome. Looking forward to seeing you guys hopefully next week and the week after and all that. Thanks for reading. Have a great Easter. Hope you find some Easter eggs.